Okay, let's proceed to our next topic, which is all about the constant of integration C. Ito tong mga C, or the arbitrary constant. So we could best discuss this by giving you first this problem. So for problem number 4, we have find the curve whose slope at any point is 2x. So we are given, or a certain curve is described as may slope daw siya at any point ng value is 2x. But this particular curve passes through 1, 2. So yung hinahanap natin is that particular curve with these attributes or these characteristics. Okay, let us first interpret the first statement. The curve whose slope at any point is 2x. Okay, so let's try to graph that. So it could be this curve, di ba? Let's say x is 0, so 2x is 0, so the slope is 0. Okay, and the slope is 0, that's just horizontal. Then, what if x is equal to 1? So x is equal to 1, then the slope niya is equal to 1 times 2 or 2 times 1, so that would be 2. So 2 rise, 1 run. So pag ganun yung slope niya, ganyan. Then syempre, as x increases, the slope also increases. So therefore, from 0, as x increases, nag-increase din yung slope. So therefore, we are just describing a parabola, right? That passes through dito kasi if x is negative, so decreasing yung slope niya. So 0 siya, then if x is negative, so magdi-decrease yung slope niya as x is moving to the left, right? If it's moving to the right, then it's getting ganyan, positive. So therefore, it is just this curve. So what it is describing is a curve that looks like this, in which ang slope niya dito, let's say eto, is equal to twice of the abscissa of that point. So the slope niya at this point is twice this abscissa. So that would be this slope. Okay, I think familiar kayo dito because we already discussed that sa polynomial curves. But wait, there's more. Sorry. But wait, there's more. This is still true for this curve. Pwede din siyang ganyan. Pwede din siya nandito. Pwede din siya nandito. Pwede din siya nandito. Right? Because ito siya, the slope here, sorry, hindi siya na-drawing ng properly. The slope here is still 0. The slope here is still 0. The slope here is still 0. So there are many possible curves that would fit this description. So what we are looking for is the particular curve. So these are the general curves that fits this description. Or kung doon na tayo sa differential equations or DE, that's the general solution. What we are looking for is the particular curve or the particular solution. So which of these will pass through 1, 2? So therefore, yung hinahanap natin yung curve that will, yung hinahanap natin among these curves is the curve that will pass through 1, 2. So 1, 2 is around, let's say here, so ito yung hinahanap natin na curve. So what would be the equation of that curve? Okay, so ito na. Answeran na natin. So first description, ang slope daw at any point is equal to 2x. So we know that the slope of a curve is equal to its first derivative, right? Yan yung isa sa mga fundamental concepts that we learned last semester. We know that dy over dx is equal to the slope. Okay. Sulat na lang natin ganito. We know that the slope is dy over dx. And that is described as equal to 2x. So therefore, I could say that dy is equal to 2x dx. And if I take the integral of both sides, okay, so what I mean is this now describes all this. Okay, so if I take the integral both sides, that would be integral of, sorry, dito na lang. Ano pa rin? That would be integral of dy that's equal to integral of 2x dx. And the integral of dy, of course, is just equal to y. So therefore, y is equal to 2 times integral of x dx is x squared over 2 plus c. So therefore, y is equal to, cancel this out, then 2 times c is 2c, that's still c, arbitrary ka c. So that would be x squared plus c. So therefore, eto siya. This is now the general solution. This is the equation that describes all these graphs because c is arbitrary. So c is a certain constant if it's this curve. That's a certain value if it's this curve. It's a certain value if it's this curve. So what we are trying to look at or trying to find out is the value of c if the curve passes through 1, 2. So kung C pa lang siya, because this is arbitrary, it could be any of this curve. But since we are looking at the point, the curve that passes through this point, so therefore C should be particular. Okay? So when we say at 1, 2, so meaning if we let the curve pass through 1, 2, that means x is 1 and y is 2. So substituting that to this equation, we'll have 2 is equal to 1 squared plus c. So therefore, the value of c is 2 minus 1, 1. So therefore, for the curve to pass through 1, 2, c should be equal to 1. So therefore, the particular curve that we are looking for is y equal to x squared plus 1. That is our answer. Very easy. You can try sa Desmos. You can graph this at the Desmos. Then you can try different values of c. Then you'll get a graph similar to this. Sobrang dali. Okay, for problem number 5, this would be your next assignment. So you need to solve this because this is just similar to problem number 4. So assignment pa rin to. We'll just proceed to problem number 6. So problem number 6, find the equation of the curve which y double prime, so second derivative na tayo, y double prime is equal to x, and which passes through the point 1, 2 with slope of 5 halves, sorry. So eto na yung hinahanap nating curve. Yung second derivative daw niya at any point is just equal to the value of x or the abscissa. And it passes through 1, 2, and yung slope niya is 5 halves at 1, 2. Okay. So, solve muna natin. How do we solve this? Of course, we need to satisfy this. We know that y double prime, or from the given problem, y double prime is equal to x. And we know that y double prime is just a second derivative, right? So, I may write that as d squared y over dx squared. Pwede yung y double prime na lang. Ganun din naman. So, if we get the integral of y double prime, that would be y prime, diba? Because the derivative of y prime is y double prime. So, therefore, the integral or antiderivative of y double prime is just y prime. Okay? So, if I apply integration both sides, so that would be y, or ganito na lang. Y, integral of y double prime, that's equal to the integral of x, dapat may dx pa tayo dito, di ba? Pero nandito siya kasi we know that y prime is dy over dx. Pwede naman ganun. Okay? Baka ma-confuse na kayo kasi parang may sa double integration na siya. That's why, ganito na lang. We know, kahit wala ditong dx, we know that yung dx na yan nandito pa because yung sinulat natin dito is not dy over dx but y prime or y double prime for this matter. Okay. Yan. Okay. So the integral of y double prime is just y prime. And the integral of this, so we know na dx, again, nandito yung dx niya. The integral of x is just x squared over 2, right? Because n is equal to 1, so 1 plus 1 is 2 over 2. Okay. Of course, plus arbitrary constant c. But wait, there's more. y prime pa siya. So we need another integration. So ito yung arbitrary constant natin sa first integration natin. So we'll call this, instead of c, we'll call that c1 because that's the integration natin, constant of integration for our first integration. Okay, because we're expecting two integrations here because this is double. This is second derivative. Ayan, so we have y prime is equal to x squared over 2 plus c1. Okay, so to get the value of y, or we could get the value of y if we integrate y prime. So integrating y prime, that um, that is equal to the integral of course, the right side, which is x squared over 2 plus c1. Ganun na lang. Again, yung dx natin dito, nandito siya. Because it's dy over dx. Okay. So, wag nang magtaka. So, what will be the answer here? So, and of course, the integral of y prime, the antiderivative of y prime is y. And that is equal to the integral of this plus the integral of this. Okay? What's the integral of x squared over 2? So, that would be 1 half, ito siya, ito yung 1 half, times the integral of, ito siya, we'll just rewrite that as 1 half integral of x squared. Ganun pa rin, di ba? So, the integral of x squared is just x cubed over 3. Right? Then plus, what's the integral of c1? Remember that c1 is constant. So, the integral of constant is just constant x. I think we have that in our previous lesson. Ayan. The integral of constant is just constant x plus constant of integration again. So, ito, yung constant of integration natin dito is the constant of integration for our second integration. So, we'll call that constant of integration as C2. So, ito now, this is now, let us simplify. That would be x cubed over 6 plus C1x plus C2. This is now the general form of the cube. Okay, that satisfies this y double prime equals to x. Okay? Now, ang hinahanap natin is the particular curve that behaves this way. It should pass through the point 1, 2, and it should have the slope of 5 halves. Now, we know that slope is y prime. And we have this equation for y prime. So therefore, that is now our slope. So let me paste that here, which is equal to 5 halves. Yun yung given. Diba? Y prime is equal to 5 halves because the slope is 5 halves. Ganon. So we have x squared over 2 plus c1 equal to 5 halves. Okay? Okay. So, i-save muna natin siya. Then, eto naman, it passes through 1, 2. Tama, 1, 2 ba? Yeah, it passes through 1, 2. So, therefore, y is equal to, x is equal to 1 and y is equal to 2. So, kung substitute natin siya, at 1, 2, that would be 2 is equal to 1 cube over 6 plus c1 times 1 plus c2. Okay, so we'll have 2 that's equal to 1/6 plus c1 plus c2. But wait, there's more. Eto pala siya. Again, it will pass through 1, 2. So therefore, we could substitute this as x equal to 1. Diba? So therefore, that would be 1 squared over 2 plus c1 that's equal to 5 halves. Pwede na masolve ang c1. Medyo dapat inuna na lang natin to, no? Then pareho din naman. That is just systems of linear equation. So what is 5 halves minus 1 half? 5 halves is 2.5, right? Then 1 half is 0.5. So C1 is just 2. 2.5 minus 0.5. Yan. C1 is 2. So therefore, this becomes 2 that's equal to 1/6 plus 2 plus C2. And we could cancel out 2. So therefore, C2 is negative 1/6. So our particular solution now is y is equal to, ayan, x cubed over 6, ano na yan? We're following this, x cubed over 6 plus c1 x, tama ba? C1x plus C2 plus C2. Okay? Then if we multiply all terms by 6, so pwedeng transpose na lang yung 6 to the other side. Pwede, pwede din di na. So, we could have this as our answer, or we could have 6y equal to x cubed plus 12x minus 1 to be our answer. So, these are our answer. Ganun lang siya kadali. Okay, now let's proceed to this next problem. Problem number 7, a ball is dropped from the top of the Washington Monument 555 feet high. Neglecting the resistance of air, how long will the ball take to reach the ground and with what speed will it strike? Okay. So pang physics na siya na problem but we'll apply integration dito. So let's just first illustrate the problem. So let's say this is the Washington Monument and its height is 555 feet. Okay, then a ball is dropped from that height. So of course, if the ball is dropped from the top of this monument, so they will take this point or the top. Let's take that as our origin. Dito na lang natin ilagay. Sige dito. Basta near the top. We'll take that as our origin. Sige na lang. Okay? So, meaning kung dinop siya, meaning there's no velocity na upward. But remember na kung sa physics kasi, if we use vector quantities, we need to set values for the directions. I mean, signs for the directions of motion. So, if we take upward motion as positive and downward motion as negative, the same as for displacement, upward is positive and downward is negative, then it would be like this. If the intention of throwing the ball is upward, the gravity will pull it down. So the acceleration due to gravity, its action is always to decrease the velocity of an object moving upward. Okay? So therefore, we should always use, kung gagamit tayo ng calculus in solving this problem, we should always use g, or acceleration due to gravity, as negative. Okay? Again, negative siya because the action of g is to pull down an object moving upward. Remember, yung upward na movement, that is positive. Okay? So, the action of g is to slow down the velocity of an object moving upward. So, that's why negative or deceleration yung effect niya. Okay? So, g is equal to, since feet yung unit natin, g is equal to 32. Sorry, that's 32 feet per second squared. And it's negative. Okay? But remember that the ball is dropped, meaning there is no upward velocity. So the initial velocity is 0. Or pwede din, let's use VI. Sige, pwede din VI. The initial velocity is equal to 0. Remember that yung inassume natin is the intention is to throw the ball upward. Iba din kasi if we throw that downward, so we'll use a negative velocity for that. So the intention is we throw that, or our assumption is that the ball is thrown upward, but since the drop lang siya, so there's no velocity upward. There's no velocity initial velocity na upward. Okay, neglecting the resistance of air, how long will the ball take to reach the ground? So we are looking for the time it will reach the ground. So from here to here, ilang seconds ba siya? Ayan. And with what velocity? So what would be the final velocity at that point? So yung hinahanap natin. Then also the time to reach this point. Okay, then we'll start with this condition. We know that the gravity or the acceleration due to gravity, if this is free falling, wala nang ibang influence dito kasi walang air resistance, just the gravity. The acceleration due to gravity is negative 32 feet per second squared. Okay? Remember that acceleration is the derivative of the velocity, and the velocity is the derivative of the distance. If you remember last sem, diba? Velocity is the derivative of the distance with respect to time, and acceleration is the derivative of the velocity with respect to time. Sige. So that would be our reference. Okay? So therefore, acceleration, which is equal to the derivative of the velocity with respect to time, is equal to negative 32. If I rewrite this as dv is equal to negative 32 dt, I take the integral both sides, then that would be v is equal to negative 32 times t plus constant of integration, c1. But wait, there's more. We know that velocity is the derivative of distance with respect to time. So that is equal to negative 32t plus t1. Now, if we take the integral of both sides again, integrate this, wag muna. About if I rewrite this as ds is equal to negative 32t plus c1 dt. Then if I integrate this both sides, what would be the result? That would be s is equal to negative 32 times the integral of t dt, that's t squared over 2, plus the integral of c1, that's c1t, plus the constant of integration for our second integration, c2. Okay, so therefore s is equal to negative 16 t squared plus c1t plus c2. Now, we have two constants of integration or arbitrary constants, c1 and c2. So we could now apply our conditions, our initial conditions. When we say initial condition, that's the condition at the first instant. And what's the condition at the first instant here? The velocity is 0. And time is also 0. Diba? Kasi initial nga, initial condition. So, we say that when t is equal to 0, meaning at the initial point, the velocity or the initial velocity, the velocity is equal to the initial velocity, which is 0. Okay? Then using this equation, that means 0 is equal to 32 times time plus c1. Hence, c1 is 0. So if c1 is 0, this equation will become negative 16t squared plus c2. Kasi wala, eliminating c1. Now, again, dapat d1 yung ginamit ko dito, no? Pero pareho din naman, at na lang, sige. So, at time equal to 0, meaning at the initial point again, of course, wala pa tayong distance covered s. Yung s natin dito, that's the distance. The distance covered from here to a certain value here. Now, or generally, the distance traveled by free-falling object, no? So, yun yung value ng s natin. Okay? Okay. So, of course, di pa siya nahulog at the initial, or mahuhulog pa lang at the initial point. So, s is equal to 0. So, substituting that here, pangit yung pakasulat ko dito. That would be 16. Ayan. Substituting it here, so we'll have 0 is equal to negative 16 times 0 squared plus c2. Hence, ano ibig sabihin nito? c2 is also 0. So therefore, s is simply negative 16 t squared. Now, since s is the distance traveled by the ball, to answer our first question, how long will it take the ball to reach the ground? That means we are looking at the condition at the ground point. So at the ground point, that is 555 feet below the origin. So if it's below the origin or downward, nasa baba siya ng origin, that means that's negative, right? Above the origin, that's positive. Below the origin, negative. So therefore, at this point, the final condition, that S, or at that point, S is equal to negative 55. 555, I mean. Ayan. So that means negative 555 is equal to negative 16t squared. So therefore, t, cancel yung negative, that's square root of 555 over 16. So that's approximately, if we use a calculator, or roughly 6 seconds, 5.89 seconds. Yeah, so that would be our answer. It will reach the ground after 5.89 seconds. So next question, at what or with what speed will it strike? So ang hinahanap natin dito is the final velocity at the ground. So anong pwedeng gamitin natin dito? I think ito. V is equal to negative 32t plus C1. And we know that C1 is equal to 0. So ito lang siya. So at the ground, yung V natin is VF. Ayan o. At the ground, yung V natin dyan is VF. That is equal to negative 32 times time. So it took 5.89 seconds to reach the ground. So the condition at the ground, the time there is 5.89 seconds. So 32 times 5.89 seconds. So that would be the velocity. So using again our calculator, so we have negative 32 times 5.89. So the answer is negative 188.48 feet per seconds. Bakit negative? Because it's downward. Diba? So therefore, we say that the velocity or the speed is 188.48 feet per second. Downward kasi negative. So that's it. Ganun kadali. So we'll have more examples of this during our synchronous meeting. So that's it for our lesson, and I'll see you next topic.